Hi, welcome to another edition of Real People. I'm Barbara, your host, and this is Emmett H. Thrower, our resident filmmaker. Today, we will view a piece and short documentary filmed by Emmett H. Thrower. Tell us a little bit about your film.
What you're going to see today is actually a short film documentary and a companion piece that I did with a photographer in the South Bronx. The film is called Silent Sellers. Silent Sellers is about street vendors. Street vendors have had a difficult time earning a living. Permits for vendors in New York City were practically impossible to get for the last couple of decades. Street vendors have had to turn to the black market. The black market that some of them pay like $20,000+ for a permit to use for 1 year. This has created a situation where people can't earn an honest living, an honest day's work being a street vendor. I realized I had a lot of vendors in my neighborhood who I purchase from, but I don't really know them. Who are they? What is their story? I had an opportunity to actually spend some time with them and speak with them to find out their story. How did they become vendors? Why did they become vendors? What issues do they have? And what issues do they expect to be facing in the future and trying to feed their families? And so I want to introduce you to Silent Sellers. And this short piece is called Walking in My Shoes. Enjoy.
street vendors contribute $293 million annually to the economy.
Vendors supported 17,960 jobs in the city. Vendors contributed $192 million in wages and paid an estimated $71.2 million in taxes.
They are in battle on all sides, by the police and by the brick-and-mortar store owners who view them as unfair competition.
The programs that BIDS initiate to attract consumers can limit citizen voice and involve the removal of the homeless and unauthorized vendors. BIDS worry over movement to increase vendor permits.
They are vilified by the bureaucracy that they believe strangles their ability to make a livelihood.
My name is Sean Bazinski, so I'm part of the Street Vendor Project, one of the groups that's organizing this event. And today, right inside here at City Hall, there's going to be a public hearing on a proposal that would be pretty good for many, many vendors, because right now there's no permits available to sell food, and you can have to wait for 30 years, or you have to buy a permit, very, very expensive. So people need permits to work legally. They want to work legally and follow the rules, but there's none available. So we need city council who work here to listen and hopefully to give more permits. So there's a proposal that would give 4,000 new permits. Not as many as we need, but it's a good number. It's a good start.
I'm here to support the vendors. We need jobs, we need opportunities, we need to display what we can do. And we want to be a viable part of New York, and that starts by generating money.
My name is Vixton Allen. Okay, I'm U.S. State Marine, and I'm from Jamaica, and I'm a high immigrant, and I'm a vendor. I've been done about 20 years. So I'm here with everybody here to get permits for more people so they can help their family.
We need permits. We need permits. We need
We get a lot of vendors to show that we need the permits. Yeah. So all these people, most of them need permits to be able to work. That's all they want. You know, they want to have a business for themselves. That's the New York life. That's the dream that so many people have.
Let's get it on. Yeah, come on, Mr. Mayor.
I am so grateful to be able to work in America and to help my family.
You tell me, why is the permit important for you? His brother is filming. Hey, brother, how are you?
How you doing?
Because we have a lot of vendors, but we take permit for black market.
There are only 3,000 permits, and there are so many names on the wait list that the Department of Health hasn't taken names since 2007. There really is no legal channel to go through obtain a permit. So many street vendors have to turn to a black market middleman to obtain a permit.
And for the permit, you have to pay for a permit right now, a lot of money?
I paid $21,000.
$21,000, this is crazy.
It is a very scary situation. You are giving a stranger a lot of $100 bills without a receipt. It's the nature of the business if you want to feed your family.
I found myself, after retirement, still needing money. And I want to earn it myself. And when I vend, it's like a window into the community.
I was work at 42 Broadway, Wall Street, Mercer, 14th Street, Pelham Parkway, in the Bronx. I go all over. You know, I could push my table anywhere I want to go. I'm the boss. I had a situation with the military situation where a lot of people died, and I had nightmares and shake-ins, can't sleep, couldn't finish my school. So they give me a percentage. You know, I could not hold on to jobs because when I can't go to work because I'm depressed, and I tried, I had a lot of jobs and people give me a lot of chances, and they told me that I could get a vendor license. So now I could set up my own business and I go there when I want to go. And it was beautiful.
Todo todo lo que...
Amigo, ¿cómo está? Y saludo a ella también. Sí, 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 somos todos amigos.
I would like to see all my fellow New Yorkers who wish to have that opportunity to be done so and done legally so we can be comfortable in vending.
Okay, brother, we're waiting for you, okay? We'll see you soon.
It's so crazy. Vendors cannot get a permit from the city because there was a cap put on the permit since 1981. You can imagine how outdated and old that system is.
My name is Rasul, better known as IU. I've been a street vendor for over 25 years. I'm from the grassroots up here of the Bronx. I was out of work, needed something to do, take care of my children, out of finance, so I went downtown in the village, West 8th Street, and that's where it started. With the people here, very good, very good. If it's up to the people, I can be here forever with no problem. The people are good, I will say that much. In a neighborhood that's not so good. The people are good. I swear by the service that I'm giving, because I've had many of people reach in their pocket and ask me if I needed anything behind the help that I've given. So yes, the people here are pleased with me as well as I am with them. There's been a waiting list for vendor license, and it's been closed since 2004, if I'm not mistaken. So anyone that needs a license to vend to take care of their family, they can't get one. Only person allowed a vendor's license right now is a vet. Well, I vended all over to make a meal. I went through the struggle. Going back about 10, 15 years ago, they really didn't appreciate vendors being in front of their store, really harassing us from doing this. We went to jail. We had our merchandise taken from us. I used to serve the village, 8th Street, selling books. The police would come 2, 3 in the morning and take all our books and throw them away. They let it happen, you know. So these are the things that I went through in the struggle of being a vendor. But I'm proud to be one. My father was a vendor. He raised me when I was 12, 13 years old. I would go out with him on weekends at his job and work with him. I sold newspapers on Sunday. I shined shoes on Saturday. So I'm that all-American vendor boy. I couldn't see myself not vending.
When people were leaving the Bronx, my dad was staying, and he was also empowering the people that decided to stay along with him. I think my dad was one of the pioneers in the Bronx. He believed in this part of the Bronx when the Bronx was, you could say, burning down. So he decided, you know what, I'm going to give this community something, because he lived in the area, said, oh, something that we're used to in our country. You know, maybe it was nostalgic, because that experience he had when he was a kid, that he ate ices in a cart in Honduras. And he knew a lot of people in this community had that same experience. So street vending and ices was very typical in Honduras. 1966, he started full-time street vending almost every day. Started with coconut. And eventually people asked him, don't you have other flavors? I guess people didn't like only coconut. So he moved on to flavors like mango or passion fruit. And he wouldn't make the same flavor every day. And then kids started to ask him, what about for us? We don't really like passion fruit or mango. So then he started to make a cherry flavor. And that's how he would actually make product based on what the community wanted or what his customers requested. Growing up with my dad was unique because the business he had was summer. So we were young, we never had a summer. So he taught us value in working, selling to people that maybe couldn't do something else. We had to get up early. We had to come to work in the summer when it was our vacation. He started on Fox and would sell Fox, Southern Boulevard, 149th Street, 3rd Avenue. My dad experienced a lot of, I could say, ignorance, because I guess the cops in this area lived other places or went to Manhattan, and they were used to seeing vendors that sold hot dogs or shish kebabs, peanuts from different countries. So when he, as a Latin man, with other Latin people, were selling products like coconut and mango that maybe people from other countries had never tasted. So he would have dirt thrown in his products. They would take the product out and throw it on the floor. They would tip his cart over.
And it is a disgrace that they have to do their work in constant fear of having their property confiscated, of being arrested, of being thrown into immigration proceedings.
I think at that point he made a decision. Either I continue forward with this dream knowing that this is going to be a future, or I get discouraged and stop doing it. While he was selling, people liked the idea and they said, oh, do you think I could have a job? And then it became so many people wanted to sell, he could no longer sell. So he started to produce the product only. And he always said, you know, you got to respect the people that don't have opportunities anywhere else. They're all independent. Most of them have their own permits. Delicioso only has 48, and they use our carts, our permits, and their own license. Mothers that maybe they couldn't get a full-time job because they had to care for their kids, he'd allow them to make their own schedule. So they came in at 10 and they left at 2, that was okay. They had to leave to pick up their children, and that's what he wanted to afford a person, an opportunity to actually become your own business owner. So they are considered a small business. A lot of the people are very grateful. They love that he's able to give them an opportunity to do something or get a job where they normally wouldn't be able to get a job. They respect my dad. They still remember him to this day. I think Department of Health, which is who regulates the vending, has come a long way. But there's still a language barrier.
Too many languages.
They were doing a class on how to maintain an A on a cart. A lot of immigrants, they don't read, they don't know how to write. They had to have a translator, but all of the paperwork was still in English. Because how are they going to follow rules that they can't read? You have to gear it towards who's selling. Even today, there's a big language barrier, but they're in the streets, they can sell, they don't have to have a big conversation, they just sell. They love it. Giving them opportunities or believing in them and empowering them. And that was the word that he always used, empower people. He never asked anybody, oh, where did you come from? Do you have papers? He never asked anybody what their past was. And he always said to me, believe in people getting second chances. My dad used to go to every precinct to fight for vending rights. All the cops loved him and respected him for what, once he sat down with them later, not at the beginning, later on in life, he would go to all community board meetings, and they respected him because they knew what he was doing for the community. Now they're even putting letter grading on vending carts. Years ago, they didn't have it. Now they're even putting a GPS on vending carts so they can track them. So the Department of Health can tell you where you're at. So this is what I always tell the vendors. If you're in the right spot and you're doing the right thing, you're not going to have an issue. And vending is a good job. It's very hard. There's still many challenges. But if you like what you're doing and you like the product that you're selling, you're going to do great. They used to want to give the permits away. Now there's a waiting list for permits. And I think vending is an honest job. It's a lot of hard work, but there's still a lot of work to do.
black-owned businesses, most beneficial outlet. Thanks, y'all.
It is astonishing that they have not lifted the caps since the 1980s.
Vendor power! Vendor power! Vendor power! All right, we're going inside.
We have seen employers and corporations killing workers, putting them into hazards. And we see how these corporations don't get punished or sent to jail because of killing workers, but we see our people, our communities being detained and sometimes deported because of work.
This is a very fundamental, important movement that defines our city and has been, in the beginning of the city, a defining group.
I want to thank all of you for coming out today to push for economic justice and increase opportunity for some of our hardest working people in our city, our vendors.
Which means that we can deliver that justice with the piece of legislation that brings you access to more permits.
I think that we are in a great moment right now to pass this package of bills that will bring justice to street vendors.
And what they need, they should get, and we must be there for them. Si se puede! Si se puede! Vendor rights! Vendor rights are our fight! Vendor rights are our fight! Vendor rights are our fight! Vendor rights are our fight!
We're all going to go inside. We're all going to sign a piece of paper, and we're all going to speak for 2 minutes.
Testimony from Chair of NYC Bid Association. Street vendors can harm and compete directly with tax-paying brick and mortar storefront businesses. They can physically overwhelm sidewalks. They often produce plumes of smoke and food waste that from time to time result in fines for the storefront businesses.
Street vendors in New York City have contributed significantly to the vibrancy of the city's street and to the city's food and retail landscape. They often offer food and merchandise alternative to those that are sold in traditional stores or sell fresh fruit and vegetable in underserved areas that are considered food deserts. I am joined today by my colleagues on the committee, Councilmember Koo, Councilmember Koskowitz, and I also been joined by Councilmember Rodriguez and Councilmember Menchaca, who are sponsors of some of the legislation that we're hearing today. Street vending in this city has existed for centuries and has consistently been an avenue for newly arrived immigrants and those with minimal work opportunities to turn their skills and resources into making a living.
Council Member Chin and Menchaca's bill, Intro 1116, aims to bring increased opportunities, fairness and consistent enforcement to a chaotic system created by a decades-old cap that has forced many vendors to turn to an underground market for licenses. City Council moves to lift street vendor permit cap in historic vote. Thursday's vote caps a years-long effort to increase the number of permits offered to the city's street vendors. The 4,000 new permits will be phased in starting in 2022, with 400 added every year over a decade, eventually nearly doubling the number. Intro 1116 will bring about several other changes for street vendors. It codifies into law the recent vendor enforcement change, moving enforcement away from police to the Department of Consumer and Worker Protection.
that's an interesting topic. You know, I never knew about street vendors and, you know, the black market. So how long have you been doing documentaries and films, Emmett?
I started out in theater. I was a theatrical actor, and I eventually started producing theatrical plays, off-Broadway plays. I would write them, produce them, direct them, and eventually I started doing some film work. And I really realized I really had a passion for film, and I really believed in people and their stories. And that's why most of the film work I do is documentary film work, because I like real life. I like things that impact us. I like hearing people tell their stories their way.
Thank you, Emmett, for showing those great pieces. They were so wonderful. And to you, everyone, thank you for joining us, and see you in the next episode of Real People, Love, Peace, and Happiness.